welcome to the Midday Roast, where we, members of Team SI, come and talk to you about what's going on in marketing, what's the latest, greatest in digital, and how the pieces come together with all of our expert team here. And we actually have our founder today, Tim Whitley, here. Excited to see us back. It's actually been a while since both of us have been on the show, but we're here today specifically to talk about 2019 marketing predictions. And we were here, last time we were together was when we talked about what we thought about 2018 and recap 2017, what we thought for 18. So we thought we'd start with what we got right, and then we'll talk about what we think is going to happen in 2019. So a couple of things, Tim, that we talked about last year were personalization, cord cutting, programmatic buying, attribution, personas, the Internet of Things with voice search, and then also how mobile is going to be impacted with this. So that's what we predicted would be a big piece of 2018. So I'll let you kick it off. What do you think that we got right?
Well, I mean, just talking about personalization in general, we called it actually the Amazon effect, right?
Yep.
And that Amazon effect has stretched into whether Target.com's using it, Walmart.com's using it, you know, all these major retailers. And we've stretched it into our equipment dealerships. We've stretched it into major corporations inside of and under this building. So we're currently on the second floor of our building. Right next door is our technology group that did that. So they get a lot of credit for that. But we saw personalization just continue to grow just as we forecasted because it's all about instant gratification. You know, we talked about mobile will always be key and always increasing.
Yep.
That's where personalization comes from. I mean, all of us are on mobile devices. So we have our smartphone. When we go somewhere, we expect that instant gratification. We don't expect to have to shop or have to try to navigate to where we want to be. We want instant gratification. And so that's where it came from.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important with that Amazon effect because we've come to expect that within 3 seconds, we want you to know what we're looking for or provide us recommendations for what we might be interested in. And Amazon really launched that. But it's expanded even into websites. Like even how we've been building websites with Sitefinity is it's based on personalized groups of how people are finding information about you or any of your competitors or what they might be searching for. That's a lot of what we've seen being built now into websites. So because people, I always tell people this, it's that people will only do what you ask them to do on the internet. So it's our job as marketers to create that behavior flow and understand what they're looking for. And so we have to provide that information quickly because we've only got 3 seconds to make sure that we connected with them. And if they have a bad experience, then they're going to bounce and go somewhere else. So I think that personalization point is still really important. I think it's expanding into 19. I don't think it's going anywhere until it becomes AI, which is a different element of it. But personalization, I think, is still, I think we were right about that one. I think it's going to grow even into 19.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm really excited about personalization just because it helps for stickiness with our clients and it helps stickiness with future clients. And if you're not attached to personalization yet right now, whether that is on your front end of the website, whether that's in the back end, and that could be, you know, using tools like Marketo or whatever, right? But if you're not on that curve yet, or even thinking about it, you're behind the 8 ball on that. And we talked about cord cutting as well. And when we talk about cord cutting, that's really about cable. That's talking about the transmission, retrans fees, and all this stuff going into your cable bill. And it's adding up to being $230 a month when you can cut that cord and go to what we call an OTT device, over the top or whatever, and pay $7.99 to $13.99 a month. And so we did see that continue to happen. DirecTV and Uverse lost 1.1 million subscribers this year. Dish lost 1.3 million subscribers, while Sling picked up 950,000 subscribers in DirecTV Now, which is not the same as DirecTV and Uverse, but DirecTV Now is that over-the-top device that you can use on your Apple TV or whatever, gained 1.1 million.
Yep.
So we're seeing that direction still parlay and still work correctly. And we're actually, you know, we have clients in the telecom space, and they're not afraid of this at all. They're actually accepting it and not, you know, it's kind of like back in the day when people said, you know, Amazon is that big 800-pound gorilla, but I'm going to build my own 800-pound gorilla. Well, instead of doing that, why don't you just go with the river and the flow of things and participate in what you need to be participating in to win the day. And so what we see with our telecom companies are saying, you know, wow, this is happening. We're not going to be able to save this, but let me tell you that if they have an Apple TV, or if they have a Roku or Amazon Fire, whatever that might be, they're going to have to increase their internet speeds, and so you actually pick up revenue on that side.
Yep. And I think it also, cord cutting in general, I think connects to our first point about personalization, because what's happening is that people don't want to pay for the things that they don't need. I want to be able to customize my experience.
Yep.
And I think that is that personalization that we are feeling across the market, from targeted ads to how things are even adjusted in retail stores to match different experiences. You know, those kind of things are impacting how we want everything to kind of fit with that. I think even with social media, like, everybody's newsfeed is different. It's personalized based on your behavior. So we have introduced this, and now we expect it across the board. So I think that that's added into the cord cutting behavior, and that's why we've seen such a large increase. It's that I only want to watch what I want to watch. But what that's done from a marketing standpoint is now we have the ability to use that type of data to not be lost on that broadcast type of cable buys. We want to make sure that we can still connect and have a mass media effect and messaging tactic through that. So I know that we talked about it a lot with being able to buy programmatic on streaming devices. So where do you see that going, and how is that picked up?
Yeah, I mean, that's gaining quick speed when you're talking about what we call connected TV advertising. And what that is where you're watching programming inside of your house. Let's say it's Hulu Plus, or it's some type of over-the-top, or you're watching an ESPN Go app, right? You're watching a football game or whatever that might be. The thing about that is you're seeing different ads than your next-door neighbor is seeing if they are watching, the same programming, and it's all based on your behaviors, your what you're in market for. And you might notice that. I mean, for me right now, my house is for sale and on the market, and so I constantly get ads that are around that, whether it's banking ads, it's Zillow, it's whatever, because that's called addressable TV. And so it's helping marketers to really hit those individuals that are in that market funnel, just like digital was. I mean, when you go back 10 years ago, and some people may say digital wasn't around 10 years ago, it's actually been around for 20 years, but 10 years ago, digital started out being inside of that marketplace, and inside for those people that are going to buy a vehicle, you want to hit them first, right? You can buy a tractor, you want to hit them first, whatever that is. And so now that is expanding into the television device. And I want to be careful about talking about just television, because what we talked about in our meeting the other day, in our all-staff meeting, is we got to stop saying that TV is just a thing that is glued to the wall. Or in a stand, right? Or on top of the stand. It's your phone, it's your tablet, it's your computer.
It's more screens than it is
screen.
TV.
It's just a screen. And so if we can get to the evolution and definition of television equals screen, then I don't mind calling it television, but we just got to get over that leap of people still calling it television and only thinking that it's the thing that's glued to the wall.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think one of the next things we're talking about is attribution, but it's really talking about how all the devices are going to be connected together. So we talk about how important mobile is, but mobile is not just your phone, it's also tablets. We're talking about TV buying or cable buying. That's not just TV anymore. That's actually also tablets, iPads, desktop. It could be your phone. It's streaming, and it's looking at how all these pieces come together. And from a marketing standpoint, we want to make sure that we've got good strategic messages across all platforms, so that we're really increasing that frequency with people and being available on whatever device they're looking at, right? So it's not just if we're trying to get in the middle of an ABC show or an ESPN game, if we're buying ads that way, we're also thinking about, okay, well, what's the Facebook element of that? What's the social? Because we know, especially for a lot of those, if they're not watching the commercial on this, they might be on Facebook at the same time. Looking at pairing those things together from a whole cross-platform or cross-screen attribution.
So you bring something up, and this isn't necessarily one of the topics, but you talk about cross-platform, you talk about the social media, you talk about all those different elements, and some people view connected TV and the social media platforms and all that other stuff as clutter in the marketplace, right? And so if you don't have, at the end of the day, a strategy, and you don't know your goals, and you don't have that strategy in place, you're dang right that it's going to be just clutter, absolute clutter. And you're going to be spending a lot of money trying to hit the right audience, and you're not going to know where to go. Here's the thing, though. I view all of this as tools in our toolbox, so that our team here and our team, whether it's on the third floor, first floor, second floor, is that we have the tools in the toolbox, and then we sit down, and your director of client services, you can have your senior account executives pick out the right tools for the particular client, whether that's an instant gratification kind of client that needs to sell things quickly, or it's a brand awareness client that they just launched a new product, or whatever that might be. So we don't view it as clutter. We view it as all opportunity to get the right message in front of the right people at the right frequency.
Yep, I think that's a great point to really focus in on, because a lot of times when I talk to clients, or even just people in the market space, like it's such a conversation about tactics, and it's not about, you got to back up. You have to have the strategy and the plan and work the plan.
Yep.
It's a really that's such a big piece of marketing, and a lot of times we get real excited about new things. And
shiny toy.
It's shiny toy, and there's always going to be something new there, because that's how quickly digital and all in marketing has evolved and expanded. But we always have to make sure that at the end of the day, it goes back to the strategy and the goals.
I mean, we just rolled out our connected TV platform and how we're going to use it for our clients, and have been building that for a year now. But the funny thing is no one under this roof views it as a shiny toy. It's all a part of the tool that goes into the strategy. So I like that. So moving on, because Grace is going to hurt us, is that attribution is one of those things that Google talked a lot about in 2017 and said, hey, it's going to come, it's going to come, it's going to come. And they did a lot of walking and then falling down, getting back up, dusting themselves off. And so what that is attribution, just to explain, just give me 10 seconds, is basically if you go to Google and you type in Ford F-150 and you type on a paid ad, and that paid ad goes to a landing page, but you're not ready to buy, so you exit that, and then later on you see a display ad, but you don't click on that display ad, and you then go back to 3 days later doing what we call work, to make a living, and then you go back to Google and you go through an organic search ad. Each one of those elements paid an attribution and attributed to getting you back to that Google organic search to get you back on the landing page to search for F-150s, right?
Right.
And so what we're trying to do, and what we've been trying to do, is to get that attribution to sync up with all the devices and all the different advertising channels. So the first thing we talked about was that attribution was going to be on the scene in 2018. It definitely was. In 2017, there was a lot of scraping of the knees and all that stuff of getting back up, but we're actually running now on attribution. There's some issues still with attribution. It's not 100% solid. There's Google continues to evolve that, and so does our data team here. But in 2019 and 2018, it's still going to continue to be one of the main topics. Everybody wants to know, how does my display ad, if I don't see any conversions on my display ads, then why am I paying for it?
Yep.
But it's the same scenario of, if I can't click on a outside billboard, what does that bring to the table for for a conversion? Well, it actually does. There was an article about how important billboards are these days. So it's all about the tools, the strategy, but figuring out what works inside that strategy is going to be attribution, and nailing that down. And so that was in 2018. We're still refining that. We are still working on that. But in 2019, we're gonna continue to get there.
Yep, I think so too. Right now, we've got a really clear visibility into what is called last click attribution, so who gets the credit for the final sale. And to Tim, to your point, that what we're really focusing on is identifying the big picture and the mix and understanding what pieces work together to drive optimal amount of conversions, but also at the lowest cost. So it's not a science. It's not an exact science, but it's definitely a moving piece that's going in the right direction, and I think it's going to continue to evolve and tighten up.
But that all goes back to strategy. I mean, when you're thinking about how am I going to find out attribution, you've got to have somebody running the playbook. You got to have the head coach that understands all of the other coaches and can hear them in their ear, etc. So you've got to have somebody attached to strategy. Yeah. So if you have other players that you're doing, that they can't hear you and that they're not following your lead, you'll never get there. But with our clients, that we're able to touch absolutely everything, then we'll be able to get there because that's what it's about. And so, but anyway, that's attribution. That's going to continue to develop, but it's going to have to revolve around attribution. It's going to have to revolve around having somebody as a head coach that understands that as well.
Absolutely. So the next thing, and it's so funny because in 18, all these things kind of connect together. Personas, we talked about, is huge. Personas are not going away. It is important to know overall from your strategy who you're trying to talk to. And it connects into the personalization. It connects into understanding where they spend their time. So you have a cross-platform strategy. You're looking at all the screens that they're spending time with. You're looking at all the social channels that they spend their time with. You're deciding if it's like, do I need to start buying advertising on podcasts, because that is a large increasing space of where people are spending their time. But are they the right clients for you? So making sure that piece is included as well. I don't see any direction where that's going to go away. I think it becomes a bigger piece of really having to understand who your audience is. So when we talk about being the coach, you've got to know who your customers are, who's your ideal audience, and who, if you don't have them now, who's your opportunity audience, and then figuring out those platforms. Go ahead.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you're talking about personas, if you have a new client, you still want their personas, and we get told a lot, we're trying to sell to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Or we're trying to reach everyone. Well, actually, you're not. If you go into your first-party data, you start to analyze that, which we do. When your first-party data could be your CRM, your DMS, your accounting system, your Google Analytics. That's actually not true. And then what we do is then find out what that is. And her team is very good at identifying those personas that then equal to personalization, that then kicks that stuff off, and then kicks off everything that we just talked about. So yeah, that's a great point, and that's not going anywhere as well.
Yep.
One thing that we did talk about in 2018 that everyone's really excited about, and I was excited about, and I know our SEO team's excited about, but voice search IoT. So what IoT is, just like, we keep talking about these little acronyms. I said OTT earlier, I said IoT. Trust me, they do mean something. But IoT is Internet of Things. And so everybody has Internet of Things. And you may not think that you do if you're someone that says, or on this, or listening to this podcast, or watching on YouTube, or watching on Facebook, and you say, I don't even have a Facebook account. I guarantee you have an IoT. What's an IoT? It's your Nest camera. It's your Ring bell. It's your Amazon Echo, it's your Google Home, it's your all of those things, and even to your cell phone, to your iWatch, to your Samsung Watch. As you can tell, we're an Apple fan, but and this isn't plugged by Apple. I'd love to get paid by Apple, but on the voice search side, that continues to grow, and in my household, just because Amazon Echoes and shows and dots and all that stuff work better with my household. I have Amazons all in my household, but probably around this table you have Grace that may be using Google Home, and then you might use something else. It all depends on how the strategy all puts the connections together. But those things are continuing to grow as well. We saw a huge leap into it. We saw a huge infrastructure come into play as well. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking about Amazon pouring tens and hundreds of $1 millions into it. Alphabet, which is owned by Google, doing the same thing. This is the thing that's going to make people's lives easier. You even have Facebook Portal that came out for this year that's supposed to be the hot item for the Christmas gifts. So that's going to continue to grow as well. And so,
absolutely agree. So I think another thing that we talked about on our last show about 2018 trends. Yeah, well, you know, we were last together. Our last show together a year ago was content is king. And I want to tell you that that is not changing. What we are seeing is that there's been a lot of evolution of the type of content that it could be. Instagram stories. You know, Snapchat released Snapchat stories in 2017. In 2018, Instagram and Facebook rolled that out. Instagram is really starting to drive that home overall. They have a much higher level of engagement because their platform reaches more on a larger range of audiences. Snapchat is definitely doing well, but it's still playing in that younger space where now Instagram is really picking up that 35 female market. They are all moving over there. So until the kids find a new spot, that's where your moms from Facebook are now moving to Instagram. And so that's where a lot of this play is coming in. So the types of contents are changing. We've also seen live video has continued to really take on this space. I think Facebook really led the charge in that by being a way to break through the clutter. I mean, that's honestly one of the reasons that we launched a live show, was because we saw this as an opportunity to connect with people and get our content out there more and have really authentic conversations with you guys. So live video, I think, is still going. From an advertising standpoint, though, and from a content standpoint, I've seen the evolution of the 6-second video. What used to be only 15s and 30s, because that's what standard TV was, and that's what we were running in YouTube pre-roll, and that we've really seen the value of a 6-second video, and that's because the attention span has dropped to that 3 to 6 second mark. So now, if you want somebody to watch your whole message, you need it in 6 seconds. So, I mean, I think you've seen that across the board, too. I mean, across every industry. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a live show, if it's a live shot, if it's you going live to talk to your friends. That 6-second ad is really starting to be the big core piece, I think, of a video strategy.
Yeah, and it really depends on, you know, of course, the strategy, but the 6 seconds break through the clutter. Most definitely it breaks through the clutter. And then the 30 seconds, it seems like it's trying to figure out its point, as well as the 15. But what we're seeing in attribution is that the 6-second or 5-second bumper, what we like to call it, is leading into and could lead into an amplify message of a 60-second message point that people would then watch to figure out what the 5-second was about. So some interesting trends around that to explain the product, because in 5 seconds, yes, you can say, you know, whether you're selling a tractor or whatever it may be, or, you know, getting a brand awareness message out. And if they're glued to that, because we use the behavioral traits, we use Doppio and all that stuff to target the right message at the right time to the right people, is that then if we can gain their interest and increase their intent, then we can get them to watch a 60-second video. But if you try to start with a 60-second video, it's going to be harder to do.
Yep. I've also had success in the flip of it, where I wanted to identify who that really niche people at a really niche message. And so I used something called a Facebook funnel setup, or video funnels. And it was like, well, if people watch this amount of the video, then they see the next one, and they see the next one, because we want to set them in a series. So we had the first piece where it was like really focused on views and get it out there. And the second one was really on the buy. So we kind of set it up in a structure because it was a very specific thing, you know, right? So I've seen it work. Like, I know there's been a lot of success with your echo and amplify message, and I think that it's again, it goes back to the tools all work the same, and it's at which level to turn it on. So there's a lot of different ways to look at video, but video is also not going anywhere. I think that we've seen that the animations of GIF, I've seen that GIF images. GIF. No, it is GIF.
It's
look
GIF.
it up.
It's GIF.
Look it up.
It's GIF.
It is a GIF image, and it has people to get through their attention rather than a static image. We'll have a debate on that. Additionally, I think there's been a lot of, in 2019, there's been a lot of focus from a lot of platforms to really identify the small business vertical as a place to spend time and energy to, because there's so much work going on with kind of this entrepreneur type of person overall in the market. And so they're really wanting to make sure that people have the ability to tell the stories of their products. And so there's a lot of focus right now on the small business vertical, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, even in Google marketing. So there's a lot of focus there to have these tools be more accessible. I think it's extremely important, and I think I'm excited to see that. But I will tell you that even with greater access to them, there's still a lot of work in understanding which tool to use, when, why, how they connect together. So definitely make sure that you're using that as part of your focus if you want to go in that direction.
In 2018, 2017, I mean, there's been a lot of people that have tried to buy LinkedIn, and I can't remember the CEO's name right now of LinkedIn.
No, it was a guy from Microsoft. Is that right?
I don't know. But anyway, sorry. But the CEO of LinkedIn has just kept saying no, because he kept seeing this curve. But yeah, most definitely the small business is going to be something that everybody is going to be focused on. And the small business just don't know which tools to use. There's a lot of different tools out there to use, and you can quickly spend $1 million in operations to see if they work. And that's a lot of money.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, I don't have $1 million to spend. And so that's something that it's just hard for a small business. I mean, we are a small business. We have 100 employees, and that's considered small business. And if spending $1 million to see if something will work is dangerous. So to all the small business owners out there, and to people that know small business owners, that's going to be something that they're going to be trying to continue to do into 2019, is trying to figure out where and how they can reach their customers. And so we'll be helping them with that. But it all comes down to strategy. And so that's something that I want to talk about first. So I do want to say this: innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. So when you're talking about personalization, you're talking about cord cutting, you're talking about programmatic advertising, you're talking about attribution, personas, voice IoT, all of that stuff that we forecasted in 2018 did come true, and it will continue to evolve into 2019, because innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. Evolution must continue to take place. It must never stop. And if it does stop, then what happens is things die. Like Snapchat. I really do feel bad for Snapchat, but they continue to really not evolve. And so
Twitter's on that list too.
Twitter's on that list, and you got to think of how Instagram has really taken that over. But so innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it's not that anyone has put a timeline on these things to say, here's when it's going to start attribution, and here's where it's going to end, so that it'll be perfect. That's not the case. That's not how digital or technology works. And so I want to make that clear. The other thing I want to make clear is, in 2019, something does have to give, and not that this is a political show or anything like that, but in the social media atmosphere, when you look at, you were talking about inside of your Facebook feed and your algorithm, each one of our algorithms are different. So inside of this room, you got me, Tim Whitley, my Facebook algorithm is completely different than Whitney's. Whitney's is completely different than Grace's, and Grace's is completely different from Blake's. And that's an important thing, and Facebook did that to make it more sticky. But what they're finding out is that, oops, we are educating people. They become a teacher, and they could be teaching only one side of facts. And who knew that there was multiple sides of facts? But that is something that I will be looking at in 2019 to see how the big players in the space resolve that. Because us as marketers, we can reach all those algorithms, and we can reach all those people, and organically we can do that as well. But what I'm talking about is actually personal social media effect into our daily lives. And so that's something that I'll be watching closely in 2019 as well.
Yep, I think that's definitely a big piece. And I think that you nailed really where that's going. It's that, one of our big leaders, Facebook, who's really, created the social media connection and community type of involvement, has really... right now, they're kind of inventing the future of what that looks like. Yeah,
and trying to figure out the course
correction.
Yep. The other thing is, I want you to talk about this, because you sat in my office the other day and you kind of led the charge on this, because I was seeing it too, and we just haven't talked in a while because you're on the third floor and I'm on the first floor. But, we've talked about, we know attribution is going to continue. I just want to recap. Connected TV is going to be huge in 2019, but you've got to remember it has to fit in your strategy.
Yes.
Don't just listen to a salesperson that wants you to sell connected TV. It has to be a reason. Advancements in personalization, that's always going to continue all the way to 2022. The voice of, how it works with Hey Siri or,
Siri just lit up on your phone.
I know, exactly. So, you got that, you got the Echoes, you got Google Home. That's going to continue to increase from ordering a pizza to ordering something off of Amazon to ordering something off of Google. Oh my gosh, that has so much potential, right? And then you also have personalization to where even Pandora or Spotify knows that you're playing on an Echo. And it could, even in spots in Pandora now that I listen to that plays on my Echo systems, and they say, all you have to do is say, hey, Alexa, order this. And so really personalizing, even down to the IoT device that they're utilizing, it's just absolutely phenomenal. But one thing that you talked about was getting back to the basics, and I want you to talk about why that's important, why that is big, and why that's come back up.
Absolutely. Right now what we're seeing is there is a huge trend, even from everything of what kind of our clients are having conversations with our account service team about, and then also how to stabilize all of this. Like, to me, it's getting back to basics about the foundation. A lot of that has to do with there's so much work and intention that really has to be based on the foundation of your organic optimized site. Like, going back to search, all of these things, every single level of personalization is focused on search. Even if it's a voice device that is still looking for the keywords that you're trying to your content to connect to make sure that you show up as an option. So that is, to me, I think, organic search and having an optimized site so that, if somebody's looking for directions, your directions are the right information, your contact is right. All of that foundation work of making sure you have an optimized site and you're using optimized content to tell your story to people is going to be the way that you're going to break through the clutter. That's the only way to win the IoT race, is to really focus on that. The other thing that I'm seeing a really big trend in is emails coming back. Like, email, the thing that has gone from ranges of being spammy to being of different codes and different things, and it's always trying to, like, look at me, has become the thing that now it's kind of breaking through the clutter of, because we're on social media and then we're on connected TVs and then we're in all these spaces. Now email has really pushed through as something that's becoming, now that we have all this content, how do we make sure it gets to our people? And a lot of that goes back to the basics of, you've got to have a directory. Going back to, like, your foundation of knowing who you want to talk to. So when we talk about creating personas and using that first-party data, we still got to build that database. We've got to make sure that we're telling people about what products we have available, what specials we have. Thank you, being, like, really pushing that, even customer appreciation story, that brand message. All of that becomes a part of the delivery, and we've got to look at that information will help inform our personas, because we want more people like that. It helps them stay in touch with us. It increases their loyalty to the brand, and it makes them more likely to be advocates for us. And so that's how it goes back to that traditional word of mouth piece. So to me, that's the back to basics. We've got to make sure that we are searched and found. We've got to make sure that we're using the right tools, and email is becoming increasingly more in the front.
And what's so funny about that is, there was a lot of spammy stuff, and I can blame retailers, a category specifically, but I'm not going to go there. Back in, early ages, 2005, 2007, and then into the small teens, where they just filled our spam folders, or, well, we didn't have folders back then, but just filled our inbox of just crud. Well, now, when she's talking about email marketing, it's really about that content. I mean, you see the highest engagement on our email marketings that we do inside, here for our clients. The highest open rates are when you're sending actual relevant content to the user. It's not just an image inside the email and it says 50% off Black Friday, and then you hit send. No. it's the why. The why has to be in there for the user, and so I think that's important, and that's the difference maker for open rates that have just been increasingly going crazy. The other thing I just want to say is that going back to basics, I know our SEO team will be always happy to hear that, but that is so true, is that SEO, it plays in IoT, it plays into Google search algorithm, it plays into Bing, it plays into Yahoo, it plays into AOL. Yes, AOL still exists. And so going back to those basics, where a lot of our instant gratifiers clients, we've always been doing SEO, but some of them just wanted to latch on to the pretty toys, the shiny toys, and we've always told them, no, we got to stay with the basics here on the SEO side. And so I mean, I can tell you there are clients that we've had since 2010 that have never stopped that SEO front, where you will see clients that aren't under this umbrella or under this roof that may do SEO for 3 months out of a year, and that doesn't do anything. I mean, that's you deserved that. And so you got to always have that platform. You always got to be hitting the basics. You always got to be doing the basics. So anyway, I totally agree with you on that.
Well, I think it's also going to impact with mobile. In order to be connected to all the devices, we've got to make sure that we've got the right content, and we've got the strategy for the people. We know who our audience is. We know what our goals are. That way, we're creating content that's valuable and relevant to them. Then we got to get it to them where they want to spend time and space. So I think really the big thing is the back to basics also includes you got to have strategy. And I know we've said it 15 times at least in this session, but it's so often missed. Like, people always want to skip that step and go into budget allocations, and it's not about the conversation of why. And so I know that I'm in the middle of multiple 2019 planning. I know that you are as well. And making sure that we're looking at how do we do in 18, what are we doing in 19, are our goal shifting and pivoting. And that's one of the values of, especially in digital, we can pivot quickly. In traditional, we want to make sure that we're aligned and we're working on that frequency message. And with connected TV, that's also going to have the ability to pivot a little bit more. So we'll get a lot of value out of those higher quality 30-second broadcast spots.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But it does come back down to strategy, and it's not about the shiny objects. I just want to say that, because in 2019 you're going to continue to see shiny objects being developed. You're going to continue to see IoT devices coming out on the market. Your refrigerator talks to you now, so what makes you think that your dishwasher isn't going to start talking to you? I mean, those things are going to continue. So let's be careful of that. Samsung's starting to get into the advertising game, where you can just advertise on Samsung TVs. So it all goes back down to basics and strategy. And that's going to be basically our 2019 thing, is that strategy actually matters. Because if not, you can quickly spend millions of dollars and you have no idea where it went in today's age. And
did it work? Because that's the question we get. I'm doing stuff, I don't know if it works. And without the strategy, you're not going to have a clear visibility into that. So I'm getting the wrap up sign from Grace. So thanks, Tim, for time. We do this a lot, just kind of in passing in the hallway. So it's good to have, I don't know, however long we've been here, to kind of talk about what the future is. And I'm excited about where 2019 is going to go. I can't believe that it was all the way a year ago when we had this conversation, because it feels like the other day. But I do want to ask you that if you'd like to learn more information, please be sure to sign up for our newsletter. Make sure you're following us on social media. Make sure that you're sharing this with your friends. And if you want information on how to really develop a strategy, please be sure to go to our website and contact us. So thanks, guys. Make sure we want to wish everybody happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.